Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review number 414. Today we're going to talk about the Game of Thrones, the card game, and this is the second edition of this game. This game originally was a trading card game way back when, I want to say 2002 or 3, and then they converted it to a living card game sometime after that, and then it had quite a run there for a while, and now they've re-released it again, sort of rebooted it as a second edition. It takes place in the areas of Westeros and Essos and whatever the planet's name is in Game of Thrones. So you've got all the different families and the characters that you're familiar with if you watch the TV show or have read the books. It is a 2 to 4 player game out of the box. They do make mention that it actually will go up to 6 players, I believe, once you add some more cards into the mix. But you can also play it head to head. I don't know which type I would play more. We'll talk more about that in a review, but the melee or the multiplayer version is a viable option to a certain degree. So let's jump into how the mechanics of the game work, and then I'll come back and tell you my thoughts on it. Now, as I said before, this takes place in the world of Game of Thrones. Here we can see Miss Stormborn with her lovely pets Drogon and I believe Viserys there on the left. Now, I am one that quite enjoys the television show, and I'm currently reading the books actually. So I'm very much invested in the theme of the game, and I'm curious actually if anybody that is not familiar with the game would have sort of the same reaction that I would. Now, here you can see all of the components that you get in the game. You get quite a few cards. You get 2 rule books similar to most Fantasy Flight games published nowadays. You have a nice sort of quick intro rule book and then a giant rules reference. It is worth noting that on the back of the quick play guide is really everything you need to know to play all the cards out of the box. There's a nice little quick phase sequence. The phases are very discreet, very simple. There is a handful of keywords displayed here, which is what you're going to be referred to most often in the game. So you're going to play the game and break the cards out and start playing again. What is this word? Well, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be referred to right on the back here. So you won't have to do a whole lot of digging up for the different keywords. Now, this box comes with characters and locations and otherwise cards for 8 of the quote-unquote houses in the game. You'll see here there's House Targaryen, Lannister, there's even the Night's Watch quote-unquote house, House Stark, Martell, Tyrell, Baratheon, and Greyjoy. So all of the sort of major houses you're familiar with. You also get a variety of tokens. You can see the Iron Throne there is actually the start player marker. There's gold pieces, that's sort of the resource or the mana, the energy that you're going to have to accrue and then pay to play certain cards. And then you can see these blue power tokens, and these are the object of the game. The first player to get 15 of these is going to immediately be the winner of the game, and you'll get these through a variety of ways, but the majority of the time you're going to be doing this by challenging or quote-unquote attacking other players. And then here you're going to see 6 title cards, and these are only used in a multiplayer match with 3 or more players. I'll explain these in more detail in a minute, but these are sort of like role cards that you're going to choose every round, give you a little bit of a bonus, and also dictate who you can attack and also kind of suggest who you want to be attacking that round. Now, the first thing you're going to do when you play the game is choose which house you want to drive and be the main force in your deck. Here we can see the Lannister and the Stark house cards. You'll pick a house card, and right out the gate, that's going to be the only characters and equipment, etc., that you can put in your deck. However, on the back side of these cards is what's called an agenda. In this case, these are banners. So you might mix in one other house's agenda into your primary house to be able to sort of splash in some of their characters into that particular deck. So for our example, let's take House Stark, and then we'll take the banner of the Kraken. This is sort of the agenda on the opposite side of the Greyjoy card. Now, the rules give you a couple of pre-constructed decks that you can play with, and that's what we have here. On the right-hand side, you have your main deck, your characters, your equipment, some locations and events, and everything that you will play out of a deck will go into here. And then on the left-hand side, you can see this is our plot deck. This is always exactly 7 cards, and each player is going to have to construct both of these decks before they start playing the game. So to start the game, each player is going to draw 7 cards from their main deck, and then each player is going to take a look at their hand and decide which cards they want to deploy immediately. You can see here the gold cost to actually deploy the cards. Everybody can deploy up to 8 gold worth of cards. You do that face down, and then you reveal those. So if we take a look at these 3 cards, this only cost us 6. We've got 6 plus 0 plus 0. So maybe we want to get Robb Stark out into play, and then possibly these two locations, but we have one problem. If you look at each of these locations, they both say they're limited. And during a turn, when you're marshaling new characters and locations and things out onto the board, you can only do one limited per turn. So in this case, we'll just put out Robb Stark and the Heart Tree Grove. So if we bump it up a couple of turns, we can take a look at how it might be set up for us. We've got 3 characters there in the front row with 2 locations in the back row. You can also see here we have a weapon called Ice equipped to Robb Stark, sort of flush on top of each other to show that that piece of equipment does belong to that particular character. And once you have done your initial deployment, I should say, you will draw back up to 7 cards. Now the first thing you're going to do each round is pick up your plot cards, sift through these plot cards, choose one, and then every player is going to reveal them to start each round. Just a quick breakdown of the plot cards. You can see you get 5 gold for this round. You have an initiative of 5, that's the number in the middle and the diamond. And then you have what's called the claim value, that's the 1 in this case. And that's sort of the effectiveness of your challenges for this round. Usually a 1, sometimes it's a 2. And there's also sometimes a special ability. Now choosing the plot cards is massive, it's huge. And I think especially with kind of the decks and things out of the box as they are in this, you can really kind of bone yourself a little bit and, you know, pick a plot card that gives you a bunch of gold, you don't really need it, or somebody else does it and they get sort of a leg up on you and kind of smack you around a little bit. In initiative order, you need to be very careful with, especially in a multiplayer game as well. So that's going to be a little bit of a sort of deal, no deal for folks, not in terms of liking the game, but in terms of like how the game is going to go for them. So just be very wary of that and be very considerate of what plots you choose, because after you've chosen a plot, it's basically discarded until you go all the way through your plot deck again, and then you can reshuffle, and then you can, you know, pick and choose what you want moving forward from there. Now after everybody reveals their plot cards, everybody will draw 2 cards, and then you'll go into a marshaling phase. Now each player in initiative order, starting with the player who has the Iron Throne token, is going to marshal any and all characters and equipment and location they wish. For example, if we wanted to put Asha Greyjoy here out into play, we simply pay the 5 gold back to the bank and then put her into play. Now you're not going to be able to hold any gold from round to round, but you don't necessarily want to spend it all during the marshaling phase. You can see here we've got an event. This is Like Warm Rain. And throughout the turn, after everybody's done marshaling, you can play a variety of these events. They will tell you on the card when you can play them. For example, this card says after you lose an Intrigue challenge as a defending player, you can kneel in direwolf character to choose and kill the attacking character and so on. There's going to be different events that you can play. So you want to retain a little bit of money sometimes going into the turn, but basically spend what you can this turn. And then you're going to go again in player order and execute challenges. Now let's take a look at Robb Stark and Littlefinger. Let's take a look at some of the icons. Now you can see between them there's 3 icons. Robb here has a military challenge icon. Littlefinger has an Intrigue icon, which Robb does not, but they both have a power icon. And these are the 3 types of challenges that you can execute: military, intrigue, and power. You can only execute 1 of each type unless some card gives you an ability otherwise, and you're going to decide to choose to exhaust 1 or more characters of a particular type and then target another player with that particular challenge. And for argument's sake, let's say we wanted to have Littlefinger execute. And now if you notice on Littlefinger here, there's a little shield with a value of 4. That's his strength during a challenge, and it's the strength for either the intrigue or the power challenge. It applies to any icon. Now likewise, you can kneel or exhaust another character who has that intrigue icon as well to absorb or even block that type of attack. Now if you notice on Littlefinger here, there's a little shield with a value of 4. That's his strength during a challenge, and it's the strength for either the intrigue or the power challenge. It applies to any icon that he might have on him. Now it's worth talking about these title cards. After everybody's revealed their plot cards for the round, you will take and mix these up, possibly discard some depending on the number of players, and then pass these around in initiative order with each player choosing one. These cards do a few different things. You can see here, some of these give you bonuses to the different challenge types. Some actually give you extra gold. If we take a look at the Hand of the King, we can see a couple of things here. It gives you a special ability, but most importantly, it says you support the Master of Laws, which means you cannot execute a challenge against the Master of Laws. However, your rivals are Master of Coin and Master of Ships. That means you can get 1 bonus sort of power for executing a successful challenge against them per round. And then every round these are going to get mixed up and reshuffled back in and rechosen every round. Now to me, that's one of the most fascinating parts about this game is the selection of those role cards every round. A lot of times in these battle games, when it goes from 2-player to multiplayer, it turns into some weird like left to right thing where you can attack the person on your left, block the one on your right, or it turns into a free-for-all, and that's kind of messy. I really like how this implements that and kind of changed it up, and it almost can form like pseudo alliances in a way where if you can, I think this would come through several plays, to be honest. I don't think out of the gate you're going to be memorizing what all the different cards, who you can block and who you can attack and all that stuff. But it's pretty cool, and I really like that part of the game. Now, in terms of the challenges themselves, I'm not going to really break that down. It's very simple. If I attack with Littlefinger and he's got a power of 4 with Intrigue, and you don't have anybody that has Intrigue to block it, then he's just going to march right in and he's going to trigger the success condition of Intrigue. Now, there's 3 different success conditions. There's a military, intrigue, and power. However, if I walk in on any of those and you choose not to block it or you just can't, I immediately get a power token right off the bat. Now, if you do block it, but I still win, let's say I have, a power 4, you have a power 3, you're like, okay, I don't want you getting the free power token. I'll go ahead and exhaust my guy and block it. Then I don't get the free power token, but I still get the effect of winning. Now, if I win with military, you have to kill one of your guys. And in addition to a normal kind of discard pile that you have a dead pile, a burial pile. And that's where the characters go. So if Robb Stark is killed, then any other Robb Stark cards I have in my hand that I might draw are basically dead cards. So they're worthless. Now, if I win an intrigue card, or excuse me, an intrigue challenge, then I get to randomly choose a card and you discard it from your hand. If I win a power challenge, I get to take a power actually from you. So that's a way you actually can steal power and sort of, like I said, in a multiplayer game, sort of do a pseudo alliance and sort of attack the person that's sort of getting closer to the throne. And that kind of gets to the 1 to 2 hour playtime on the box. 2-player games, half hour, 45 minutes. Multiplayer games, especially if you were to play with 6 one day, I could see that going an hour or 2, but we'll talk about that more in the review. But that's kind of how the challenges basically work. And just a quick note, if you took a look at Robb Stark here, he's a lord. Sometimes there'll be some cards that are going to trigger off like the type of card. It might be a lord or direwolf or an ironborn or a Stark or something. But also note here, there's a keyword of renown. And whenever Robb, or anybody that has a renown keyword, is involved in a challenge and wins, whether they're on offense or defense, you're actually going to take and put a power token directly onto this character. Normally, as you accrue power tokens, they'll go directly onto your house card. But power tokens that go onto your character are a little bit more susceptible because if this character is killed, those power tokens go away. But the renowned characters are usually much stronger and much more powerful, so they are something to be watched out for. After all the challenges are done, we're going to go into a dominance phase, and that is whoever has the most strength of the upright non-kneeling characters is going to get a free power token. If there's a tie, nobody gets them. And then you're going to the next round where you get a new plot card, draw more cards, and then do some more challenges and so on. Okay, so that's pretty much the Game of Thrones. Now, one criticism I'll come out with, just to kind of get that out of the way, is the sort of card count and the stuff that you get in the deck. And I can elucidate that point by talking about the renowned character, which I just mentioned. And the renowned characters can wield a big stick, and they can be very dominant, on the field. And now, if somebody doesn't draw those, and they don't really draw that great, which can kind of happen in any card game, somebody that has the renowned character and a really good renowned character can sort of start, whacking everybody with their big stick. So the balance and stuff, I think, with the kind of the decks out of the box is a little bit skewed, especially in multiplayer. It's not as bad in the 2-player game. And I feel like out of the box, the 2-player game, it's a good introductory experience. You're going to get into it. The theme is great, but it's really geared for that. Now, in terms of the multiplayer game, I would kind of shy away from it. We played a 3-player game of this, and it was a little bit swingy and wonky. It was a lot of fun, but I felt like I'd rather either have a second core set or some other cards or something to kind of flesh it out and give some more consistency to the decks and how they operated, because you can get in situations where somebody's just way better than others and somebody is like drawing really poorly and they get kind of beat up on by the strong player kind of thing. But a 2-player game, I think the balance is okay. But I think the game wants that second box to really fill itself out. Now for me, I get super into the theme. I get really into a lot of the mechanics and how it sort of goes with the theme. Like I said, the plot cards are super important. You've got to be real considerate about saving your plot cards for a moment when you're going to be able to make the best use of it. So if you're going to do a lot of marshaling, you've got a good hand of characters that you want to get out, you want to kind of save your plot card that gives you a good chunk of money to, for that turn. You might want to go last in the initiative, because if you attack you with like your one intrigue guy, then you're not going to have anybody on defense. So the whole initiative thing is really going to be very important, again, also in multiplayer. So the initiative thing can be very important to consider as well. And then you can have also that claim number where, well, I think, and now that I'm speaking it out loud, I think I kind of screwed up that rule a little bit in terms of explaining to you. But like I said, when you do the military and the intrigue and the power challenge, you either get to kill a guy, discard a card to get power. But that's actually indicated by the claim number. So if you have a 2, you get to do 2 of those things. So that can be super powerful and awesome. So when that claim number is high is when you should be ready to go and execute, your full force of your power. So for me, the game works extra thematically, and that's very interesting. The only other game like this that seems to operate for me more thematically than it does mechanically is the Star Wars living card game, which is also a Fantasy Flight game. For me, both these games are good mechanically and they're fine, but the theme really comes out of them. Now, it's because they're tied to an IP. Like another game that you could call a living card game would be Mage Wars. And to me, the theme really comes out of that. If you watch any of my Mage Wars reviews, I talk about how visceral it is, how interactive everything is, how realistic everything feels. And this one, and also the Star Wars LCG, feel very grounded in the source material. So if you're familiar with the books and familiar with the TV show, then I think you're going to get a big kick out of this. And I'm actually very much looking forward to playing the multiplayer game with some more balanced decks and things. So I'm trying not to spoil it. I want to talk about some of the things that some of the cards do, but I would totally spoil the movie, or excuse me, the TV show and the books for people. It's very easy to quick and pick up and play. You get a plot card. The deck building is going to be pretty simple with just, okay, I'm going to use everybody from this faction, some neutral, and then I can splash in. You can use that sort of banner thing, and the deck building is going to be very quick, especially with the dearth of cards that we have right now. The phases are very easy. Plot card, money, draw, put some guys out, and then you just go and do your 3 challenges and so on. So I recommend it, and this is one of those, I think it's typical of the living card game where you kind of want to see more of it in that first cycle of it. But to me, this holds a lot of promise, and it's something that is cool because I can also kind of play it casually with Game of Thrones fans, and not necessarily just like hyper competitively, where something like, I don't know, like Netrunner or something like that. Magic and stuff. So those kind of just kind of suck you into that whole competitive world, and I think this one can kind of sit nicely in both worlds, where you can get, like me, this is not something I'll ever play competitively. I've got enough sort of games on my shelf that will do that. This one I can sit casually, I can reminisce about the characters and put sort of sorry, I'm losing the words here, sort of like, not normally combined teams together. I don't want to spoil any of the books, but, I could put X with Y, and they would never work together in the books, but I could put them together here. And, or you can kind of take sort of alternate history things. One sort of weird tidbit is the decks that the game gives you out of the box are sort of like from different points in the story. It's like, okay, these two are combined. Well, this would have happened before the books even started. And it's like, oh, this is from the 5th book. There's no way they would be together until then. And then you're like, well, why are they fighting each other? They're from 2 different points of history. But that's kind of cool too, right? So that's kind of the whole idea of the universe. Anyway, so that is the game. Definitely get a look at it. And especially if you are a fan of the show or the books, then I think you will quite enjoy this. So thanks.